This one was, they would, number 3 was, they would completely ignore the indefensible points. They are very, they are very selective and very smart. I gave you that because we are not discussing today Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's age. I gave you that example that he made this claim that he is going to complete 40 years of his da'wah. By all calculations, the maximum you can go is up to 30 years. That's the max. Even if you give him the margin of 6-7 years as well, still you cannot complete, you cannot even go near to 40, right? And this was not our own judgment. In 1892, he himself is telling us that I have completed 10 years. Right now, number 4 is bringing opposite quotes. You have seen this trend that whenever, for example, you present something, instead of addressing that particular quote which you want them to address, what would they do? They would bring something else from some other book, or from the same book few pages later, where Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has said complete opposite of that. Right? Now, example. When we, now this is the, look, if you want to take one example, take this one. I'm begging you, take this one, please. Okay, now, when you tell them that, look, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has gone to know, basically he crossed all limits. He crossed all limits to show his disrespect to Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And then we give them the examples. The classic example we are giving them for many months, Adnan Bhai has pointed out face to face to Razi, the drinking one and the prostitute one. Right? Now, what I'm going to say now, I request all of you to please listen this point very carefully. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said, and he spent, you can say, dozens of lines, if not pages, to explain this point. He said, there are things with the righteous people which appear to be very indecent. Are you with me? I'm giving you Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's thesis, which Jamaat will never tell you, by the way, okay? And I am responsible for everything I am saying. And even today, I will give you at least one reference to back up this point, right? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said that when Allah appoints someone, or when somebody is righteous person, a saint of Allah, a wali of Allah, then this person gets involved in something which appears to be very indecent. Why? Through that thing, Allah wants to hide that righteous person from the sight of, bad people. All they know is just to raise objections on the saints of Allah. So through those indecent things, this wali of Allah or the righteous people is hidden from the eyes. And guess what? Guess what? He gave the example of Prophet Isa alayhi salam being with that prostitute and letting it do whatever she was doing. And Mirza said, pay attention, Mirza said, this is from Mutashabihat. This is from the obscure matters. This is from one of those matters which you cannot understand, which a common person cannot understand. And while I am talking, I'm going to pull out that one reference at least, because I don't want you to be thinking that, Imtiaz bhai just saying things today. No, inshallah, whatever I will say, I'll give you the evidence. So now, when we bring all of these quotes, I mean, just imagine Mirza Ghulam Qadiani himself is telling us that if Isa or Jesus, if he would let a prostitute to be in his to be close to him and to do all of those indecent things like touching his feet or throwing her hair on his feet, etc., etc. He said that if if he was a righteous person, are you with me? He said, if he was a righteous person, let alone a prophet, why would he let her do all of that? And then he explained that this was all basically from mutashabihat. Allah wanted to hide Isa alayhi salam from the eyes of those people who are only raising objections on the people. Right? Now, when we ask them to address this point, what do? Because I am telling you about tactic number 4, bringing the opposite course. Instead of addressing this problem, they would say, oh, look, in this book, on this page, Mirza said that हम भी ईसा अलैहि सलाम को अल्लाह का सच्चा नबी समझते हैं. Is that the question we're asking you? No. We're asking you to address this problem where Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is telling us that being with the prostitute was something from mutashabihat. Address this point, because he himself is telling us that if a prophet, if a claimant of a prophethood is doing all of that, he can't be a prophet. He can't even be a righteous person. And then Mirza says, Isa was doing this. So instead of addressing the problem, they will bring the opposite quotes. One more example. By the way, I'll give you the reference for this one, okay? I have not forgotten. So Mirza Ghulam Qadiani believes and stated that the nikah, first of all, that he believes that Maryam alayhi salam, she was married to Joseph the carpenter. And then he says that I have done my research. Are you listening? Mirza said, I have done my research that this was not a routine marriage. It was a cover-up mission. It was a cover-up mission because Maryam alayhi salam, nauzubillah, she got pregnant in a mysterious way. And now the elders of the community, the elders of Maryam alayhi salam, they were so much worried. They wanted to cover up the issue. They went on search and they were trying to find someone. They end up finding Joseph the carpenter, an old man who was already
Imtiaz
married.
bhai, before you continue with this, yeah, I
Ji, ji,
want
bhai.
to very quickly add something that
Ji,
came to
bhai.
my
Ji,
mind.
ji, bhai. Ji.
Was, when you asked them the question about Isa alayhi salam, how Mirza Ghulam al Qadiani insulted him, let's say, okay, by um, using very bad language, they start pulling out other statements where Mirza said, oh, we love him, he was a great prophet of God, we admire him, okay. They do this game. And we have repeatedly said to them that we are not asking you to present Mirza's love and respect for Isa alayhi salam. We want you to address his disrespect to Isa alayhi salam. And they
Yes.
don't seem to get the point. Even though some of them are engineers and doctors and highly qualified people, they don't seem to get the point.
Mm,
It's like saying to your father, I love you, okay? I love you, I respect you, I honor you. But what were you doing with the kanjari? Okay?
Subhanallah.
She was putting oil in your head. What were you doing drinking? Okay? And it's like going to your mother and saying, why were you peering with a non-mahram man without nikah? What were you doing with
Mm,
him? Okay? I love you, mom. But what was wrong with you that you were getting a kanjari to rub your head? It would be like that. Okay? The problem is not saying to your parents that we love you, we respect you, we adore you. This is not the point. The point is when you disrespect the same parents, this is
mm,
where Allah will hold you accountable. Allah will reward you for your love, no doubt. Okay. But the moment you disrespect your parents, your reward is cancelled. Your good
mm,
deeds are cancelled because of the severe nature of the sin. What sin? Disrespecting your parents. Disrespecting your parents.
mm.
Okay. So, how about disrespecting a prophet of Allah? Okay, it doesn't even stop there, Imtiaz bhai. He
Ji, ji.
felt guilty about this. Mirza felt guilty about this himself. Okay, we were discussing this issue not long ago. I don't know which stream it was, where in the footnote it states that Mirza admits in the footnote that जो खिलाफ शान बातें मैंने हजरत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम के बारे में लिखी हैं, वो जो मेरे कलम से खिलाफ शान बातें हजरत ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम के बारे में निकली हैं, वो इल्जामी जवाब के तौर पे लिखी गई थी और वो यहूद के अल्फाज थे. Right? So he admits, Mirza actually admits writing insulting things about Isa alayhi salam deliberately.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was a footnote to a statement he had made in the main text. In the main text, he wrote, Isa alayhi salam was a prophet of God and we respect him. हम उनकी इज्जत करते हैं, right? And then there's a footnote, as you know, you remember there's a footnote and there's a footnote to the footnote and there's a footnote to the footnote. Just like that, there was a footnote. In the footnote, Mirza is saying, whatever disrespectful stuff I have written about Isa alayhi salam actually was as ilzami jawab, and these were the words of Yahud. But in fact, you know, here there is a very deep problem which people miss. What is that problem? Mirza is himself admitting, he is admitting his guilt that he has written disrespectful stuff about Isa alayhi salam. He has written it, okay? And he has written it quite consciously, knowingly. He knows what he's doing, Imtiaz bhai. Okay? He knows what he's doing. When he's writing it, he knows it's khilaf-e-shan. Khilaf-e-shan means disrespectful, insulting, right? So when he's writing it, he knows it's khilaf-e-shan, but he's still writing it. Okay? And what the Qadiyani Murabbis do, they are very carefully observing our content, otherwise our debates, otherwise and everywhere, you know, with other people as well, so that they can catch words from our statements and then use them to embarrass us. Okay, for example, I was having a discussion with a Shia recently in the park, okay, and there I used their beliefs about Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anh. For example, I challenged some of the beliefs that some of them believe, actually most of them, they believe that Umar killed Fatima radiallahu anha, a'udhu billah, by smashing the door on her or getting her assassinated somehow. Okay, I asked them, what was Ali bin Abi Talib doing radiallahu anh? Okay, then Ali got his daughter married to Umar. Okay, what was Ali doing at the time? And they claim that this daughter was taken by force. Kulthum was taken by force from Ali radiallahu anh by Umar. Okay, then he gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr 6 months later, as Sahih al-Bukhari states. Okay, so all these things are happening to Ali bin Abi Talib. Oh, the Prophet was poisoned by, they claim, the Shia claim that the Prophet ﷺ was poisoned by his wives. My question was, what was Ali bin Abi Talib doing at the time? Radiallahu anh. And they have lame responses. So I said, your Ali, your perception or your conception of Ali is like very disrespectful. You are claiming that Ali, a'udhu billah, thumma a'udhu billah, was cowardly. So when I said this to them, okay, what did they start to do? Oh, ilzami jawab, look how you're disrespecting Ali bin. And I said it, before I said these things, I said, nakale kufr nabashat. I am about to say something bad. So clearly this is not my belief. And before I say this, I say my belief is that Ali bin Abi Talib was a lion of Allah. Okay? But to show them how erroneous their beliefs are, okay? So we don't disrespect people. We don't insult people. We highlight, we clarify that what I'm about to say is not my belief. Okay? And what I'm about to tell you is the consequence of your beliefs, right? But they claim that Mirza used the same level of ilzami jawab as we do in our dialogues and discussions, which isn't the case. Mirza's insults were so severe. Okay, for example, this Razi.
Adnan bhai, we may go too far from the topic if you allow me to finish this.
Yes, please go ahead. Please, I just wanted to highlight this point that when they claim that we disregard Mirza's statements, respecting and expressing his admiration for Isa alayhi salam, that's not the problem. The problem is his extreme insult against Isa alayhi salam and his mother. This is the problem. Yes.
Yeah, Jazakallah Adnan bhai, and definitely that is the problem we are trying to highlight since beginning. Now, what I was telling you and what Adnan bhai was explaining through examples, that we bring to them a quotation in which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, I am using every single word within my human capacity very carefully. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani crossed all limits to disrespect Sayyida Maryam Salamun alayha and Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. So when we bring all of those quotations, they don't address them. What do? They jump to some other things. Then Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is praising Isa alayhi salam. As Adnan Bhai was saying that if you are abusing, if you are swearing at someone, we're asking you that why are you swearing? And in response, they're telling, oh, you remember on Wednesday, I gave you this nice food. I offered you this nice coffee. Hello, I'm asking you about this swearing. Now, another tactic they would play, and inshallah, I'm going to give you two examples to close this door, inshallah, to close the door of all tactics. And I want you to take screenshots of this, read them with an open heart and mind. I swear by Allah, anyone who is going to take note of these references amongst many, I'm going to give you something open and shut case of disrespect of Isa ibn Maryam and his mother. Now, read them, verify them, and after that, ask yourself, is Mirza Ghulam Qadiani not crossing the limits to disrespect these noble characters? If the answer is yes, and it is yes, what good reason do you have to stick with this cult? Prepare your answer. After watching this next 5 minutes, you have to prepare your answer. Okay? Now let me share my screen. So I will give you one example about Maryam alayhi salam and one example about Isa alayhi salam. Okay? Let's go for the Maryam alayhi salam example first. Okay. Al-Hakam 1902, 24th of July, page number 16, we have the original as well. And this original has been presented in the past when an African Ahmadi came and he said, oh, I want to see the original. Alhamdulillah, we have that. We presented that. Now, because right now the topic is not this. The topic is to teach you the tactic that they would avoid the insult. They would quote something else. Okay. I want to read this passage. It will take 2-3 minutes, but I want to read it. So inshallah you can see the filth. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani says, इस जगह तब अन ये सवाल पैदा होता है कि बावजूद उस मुअक्कद अहद और नजर के जो मरियम के बाप और माँ और खुद मरियम की तरफ से था, फिर क्यों मरियम ने खावन कर लिया और तौरात के हुक्म को तोड़ दिया? Mirza says, there's a natural question that despite there was a vow, there was a nazar, there was a vow, and there was a promise, there was strong commitment, a covenant between Allah and Maryam and the parents of Maryam. Okay, what was the covenant? That she will not marry. Then Mirza says the question is, then how come she married and she broke that covenant? और तौरात के हुक्म को तोड़ दिया. Note the point. तौरात के हुक्म को तोड़ दिया. Don't forget, Maryam alayhi salam was under the law of Torah. And Mirza says that Maryam alayhi salam, Nauzubillah, broke the law of Torah, i.e., she went against the Sharia of that time, i.e., as Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has said in other places, the nikah was najaiz, Nauzubillah. Now, but I want to give you this particular quote. इस सवाल का जवाब किसी पादरी साहब ने सफाई से नहीं दिया. Mirza says that no Christian priest has answered this objection in a clear way. लेकिन हाल ही में मुझे एक फाजिल यहूदी की किताब मिली है. He said that very recently I have discovered a book from a learned Jew जिसने सही तौर पे, note the word, जिसने सही तौर पर इस उकदा को हल कर दिया है. He says that I have got a book from a learned Jew and this book has solved this puzzle in the correct way. सही तौर पे, in a correct way, right? वो कहता है कि असल बात यह है कि मरियम जब हैकल की खिदमत के लायक हुई तो कुछ मुद्दत खिदमत में मशगूल रही. He says that the Jew says that when Maryam alayhi salam, when she was able to serve the temple and she kept serving the temple for some time, लेकिन बालिग होने के साथ ही किसी नामालूम तरीके से इसको हमल हो गया. But as soon as she became adult, बालिग होने के साथ ही she became pregnant in a mysterious way, in a नामालूम, in an unknown way. Okay, इस पर शुबहात पैदा हुए. On this there were doubts created. यहूदियों ने एक रूमी सिपाही पे इल्जाम लगाया. And the Jews, they accused a Roman soldier, nauzubillah, that he has done, nauzubillah, adultery, fornication
No,
with
no,
Maryam.
इम्तियाज भाई, दिस इज अ यहूदी राइटिंग दैट यहूदियों ने इल्जाम लगा दिया. ये
जी
भी
जी
नोट करें,
जी.
ये भी नोट करें. A
सुभान
Jew is
अल्लाह.
writing that the Jews accused. Okay.
Allahu Akbar. What a point, bhai. Jazakallah. What a point. What a point. Jazakallah, bhai. Jazakallah. That was gem, mashallah. Yes, look at, when somebody is fabricating things, because don't forget, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani in his entire life did not produce this book, by the way. So we can verify. Okay. So anyhow, when he was fabricating all of that, as Adnan Bhai pointed out, he made this mistake, blunder. Okay. So he said that the Jews started to accuse a Roman soldier. बहरहाल जब वो हामला पाई गई तो हैकल के मुंतजिम बुजुर्गों को ये अमर बहुत शाक गुजरा और उन्होंने इस हमल के बाद मरियम को हैकल की खिदमत पे रखना नामुनासिब तस्वर किया. He said that when the elders of the community and the management of the temple, when they discovered that Ma'azallah Maryam is pregnant and that is something unknown, we don't know what's the cause, it was very heavy on them, both Shah Guzra, and they decided that they cannot let Maryam to serve the temple anymore. इसलिए उन्होंने कोशिश करके एक बूढ़ा आदमी बनी इसराइल में से तलाश किया. For this reason, they went on searching and they were able to search an old man from Bani Israel, from children of Israel, from the Jews. और इसको मजबूर किया कि वो मरियम को अपने निकाह में लावे. And they forced the old man to marry Maryam alayhi salam. नाउज़ुबिल्लाहि मिन ज़ालिक. वो शख्स बूढ़ा भी था, वजह माश भी कलील थी, यानी बढ़ाई था. इसके घर में इसकी जोरू भी जिंदा थी. He says that this person, i.e. Joseph, the carpenter, he was an old man. He did not have much financial means. He was just a mere carpenter, and his wife was also with him. Don't forget this key point. He was already married with someone. Okay? इन मुश्किलात के सबब मरियम को इन मुश्किलात के सबब मरियम को जोरू बनाने से इसने इनकार किया. He said for this reason this old man refused to marry Maryam alayhi salam. नाउज़ुबिल्लाह. और बुजुर्गों की खिदमत में बाअदब अर्ज किया कि मैं बूढ़ा हूं, मेरे घर में मेरी बीवी मौजूद है, मेरे बच्चे भी हैं, इसलिए मुझे इस निकाह से माफ रखा जाए. He requested to the elders that, look, I'm an old man, I have my wife at home, I have my kids, so please excuse me from this marriage. I don't want to marry. Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. I wish there was iman when somebody is reading this filth, this kufr. I wish that. All of this is being said about who? About a woman, Maryam alayhi salam, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected over all the women of her time. That Maryam alayhi salam, according to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she is one of those 3 or 4 women who perfected their religion. And this person, I don't want to marry her. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. Anyhow, he said that he said, just excuse me, I don't want to marry her. Okay, now, मगर बुजुर्गों ने बहुत इसरार करके बसूरत तमाम मरियम का इससे निकाह कर दिया. But the elders insisted, and basically out of the will of against the will of Joseph, basurate tamam, swiftly, quickly, being hasty, they get Maryam married to this person Joseph, और मरियम को हैकल से रुखसत कर दिया, and they made Maryam leave the temple, ताकि खुदा ताला के मुकद्दस घर पे नुक्ता चीनियां ना हो. So people should not be able to raise fingers at the temple. कुछ थोड़े दिनों के बाद वो लड़का पैदा हो गया. After few days, note the word, कुछ थोड़े दिनों के बाद. Wallahi, I can go on and on to explain from other writing of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, where he is saying something different, but leave that for now. थोड़े दिनों के बाद वो लड़का पैदा हो गया जिसका नाम यसू रखा गया. After few days, that child was born who was named Jesus. आज तक यहूद इस बात को नहीं मानते कि वो लड़का मौजज़े के तौर पे पैदा हुआ. He said, till today, Jews do not admit that this child was born without father as a miracle. गर्ज, hello people, गर्ज इस यहूदी फाजिल. Now this Yehudi is fazil, learned, respectful. Mirza says this respectful Jew, इस यहूदी फाजिल का ये बयान जो हमने लिखा है, इस बयान से बखूबी समझ आ सकता है कि क्यों निकाह की जरूरत पड़ी. He says that from this statement, from this narrative of this learned Jew, you can understand that why there was a need for the marriage of Maryam. और इसके मुकाबिल पे जो इंजीलों में ये बयान है कि गोया मरियम सिद्दीका का मामूली तौर पे, जैसा कि दुनिया में दस्तूर है, यूसुफ से नाता हुआ था, ये बिल्कुल द्रोह और बनावट है. आर यू लिसनिंग पीपल? मिर्जा गुलाम कादियानी इज टेलिंग यू that as people think on the basis of gospels that this was just a routine marriage as people normally get married, because according to Bible, according to gospel, even though we have that marriage narrative, but they portray that as a normal marriage, right? So Mirza says that is not. Mirza says ये बिल्कुल द्रोह और बनावट है. Mirza says that to call, are you with me? Are you with me, people? Are you able to see the kufr and filth of next level? Mirza is saying that this marriage to be considered as a routine marriage, ये द्रोह है और बनावट है. It is a fabrication, it is a lie, and it is something superficial. And then he says कि गोया मरी ये बल्कि सच ये है, बल्कि सच ये है, बल्कि सच ये है. मिर्जा सेज द ट्रूथ ऑफ द मैटर इज कि हैकल के मुंतजिम बुजुर्गों ने एक बाकरा औरत को के हमल को देख के दुश्मनों के एतराज से डर के और खानदान की नसीहत से और खानदान की नसीहत से अंदेशा करके पर्दापोशी के लिए ये तदबीर सोची थी. मिर्जा सेज द ट्रूथ इज, आर यू लिसनिंग पीपल? द ट्रूथ इज द मैनेजमेंट ऑफ द टेंपल came up with this technique, this idea, this tadbir. Why? Out of the fear of their enemies, out of being disrespect for the family, and parda poshi ke liye, to cover up the whole issue. They did all of that. हर चंद के वो ये जान, हर चंद वो जानते थे कि ऐसा निकाह तौरात के बरखिलाफ है. मिर्जा सेड despite the fact they knew that this marriage is against the law of Torah, i.e. against the law of Allah. Are you listening? Mirza says that the elders knew that this marriage is against the law of Allah. क्योंकि वो अहद जो मरियम के तारिका रखने में खुदा से किया था वो इसमें टूटता था. Because in this marriage Maryam was going to break the covenant with Allah. ताहम, मिर्जा says, however, नंगो नामूस की मसलहत, मिर्जा says, in order to preserve the dignity of the family on shamatte ada, and to avoid the stoning of the enemies, or the objection of the enemies ने इनको इस काम के लिए सख्त मजबूर कर दिया था. He said that the elders were forced to do something haram. And in this haram, Nauzubillah, Maryam is involved. Why? Because they wanted to protect the dignity of the family and they wanted to avoid the objections of the enemies. Okay. And then it says, हर चंदा हर चंद इस हमल को इस तरह पोशीदा रखा गया. It says this is how this whole thing, the whole pregnancy was made secret. I.e., are you with me? Are you with me, people? Look at this one. Mirza is saying that now because Maryam is living with a man as her husband, so if child will be born, there will be no objection, right? But as Adnan Bhai pointed out, when Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was fabricating this kufr and this lie, he forgot one thing. He said that when Maryam was married to Joseph, after few days the child was born. Just imagine if there's a newly married couple, and by the way, Maryam and her family, they are not just, you can say the ordinary people. She is the blessed family, okay? They are the renowned family. And this newly married couple, after few days, a child is born. Do you think people would not raise objection? Really? Number one. And number two, if a woman is living with her husband and then she gives birth to a child and Allah wants people to believe that this child is born miraculously, you use your mind. Subhanallah, use your mind. So no, what was the whole point? The whole point was, now you tell me, is it not Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's belief? Now what will happen? What will happen? When you present this whole, what would they do? They would open some other books which Mirza says Maryam Siddiqa thi, Maryam. Oh bhai, iska jawab do. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is saying nikah was haram, but they still did it. How would you justify a haram marriage? These are the problems. Now, instead of addressing that, what would they do? They would quote some other. So understand the tactic. Till today, Qadianiyat has not addressed this quotation. They have not. All they are doing is tactic number 4, quoting other passages. Adnan bhai, over to you.
Absolutely, Imtiaz bhai. And what is disturbing is that he's using a Jewish account, to tell the story of Mary. First of all, my theory is that this is Mirza's own uh, beliefs, and he used this unknown person as a scapegoat or as a shield. Instead of saying these are my beliefs, I think so, Mirza just made up a Jewish source. Fazil Yahudi ne kaha. A learned Jew said such and such. Okay, so that's one problem. But let's assume for a second that Mirza did find a source that we haven't found to this day. I've been we've been looking for such a source for a long time. I wonder which language Mirza read these sources. Is another question, Imtiaz bhai. Imtiaz bhai, my question is, Mirza must have read this either in Arabic, Persian, or Urdu, right? He didn't know English. We know that he didn't know English. He didn't know Hebrew. He didn't know any other language, right? So this Fazil Yahudi's book, uh, was it in Arabic, Urdu, and or Persian? And why did he not mention his source? But let's say there was a source. Let's assume. Why would you? My question is, why would you use a Yahudi's account on Maryam alayhi salam? First of all, when the Quran defends Maryam alayhi salam against who? Against who? Against the rabbis.
Yes.
Against the Jewish rabbis.
Yeah.
The Jewish rabbis who were accusing her of all sorts of evil things. And the Quran defends Maryam alayhi salam's honor against the writings of Jewish rabbis, because this was the only group who was attacking her in the history, in the entire history of humanity. There was no one else attacking Maryam alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam. No one else, no other group apart from Jewish rabbis. And Mirza found a Jewish rabbi to tell a story about Mary, which he himself tells in detail without condemning it, without criticizing it, believes it, uses it as evidence to claim points. That इससे साबित हो सकता है या इससे कहा जा सकता है या इससे ये argue किया जा सकता है. This is what he's saying. He's saying you can argue this from this, you can use this for that, instead of condemning it, instead of
Why,
criticizing it.
why he said that सही तौर पे उकदा हल हो गया है.
Oh my God. Very important point. He's saying now the puzzle has been solved by the writing of this learned Jew.
भाई चेक दिस वन, ये चेक दिस वन. इस सवाल का जवाब किसी पादरी ने सफाई से नहीं दिया, लेकिन हाल ही में मुझे एक फाजिल यहूदी की किताब मिली है जिसने सही तौर पे इस उकदा को हल कर दिया है.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And it is not there. Look, we haven't found this theory anywhere in any book. And even if we find it, let's say even if we were to find it, even the Qadiyani Jamaat hasn't found it. For the last 100 years, I'm sure they're looking for this Fazil Yahudi's book that Mirza found somewhere. Okay, we are still looking for it. But the point still stands. Why would you use the writings of the enemy to defend a noble personality like Maryam alayhi salam that is defended in the Quran? And why do you have to present? Imtiaz bhai, we have to know the underlying reason why Mirza was using this theory in the first place. Okay,
जी
she
भाई,
got
जी भाई,
yeah.
there was overwhelming animosity of Mirza against Maryam alayhi salam and against Isa alayhi salam.
And what was the reason for that? Why was he so
Because you know Adnan bhai, for example, he was claiming to be Isa alayhi salam and he was
exact?
having such a dirty personality and a dirty face. He
Yes,
wanted to paint a dirty picture, maazallah, for those people as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. That prophets can be like this. Their mothers can be like this, the way I am. And I have multiple women serving me and massaging my feet and my legs, right? As we have shown from his own biography, that he had multiple non mahram women serving him and massaging his legs, okay? Touching him up and massaging his legs. This is apparently
Not
a profitable.
by taking shower in his room.
Astaghfirullah. Audhu billah. Allahu Akbar. Yes, absolutely. And claiming that he can't see,
Yes.
claiming that he cannot see. Okay.
Yeah.
But why is the woman taking a shower in his room in the first place? Is the question. How did she find the courage? How did she take her clothes off in his room and showering? Okay. So, because he was of this character, he wanted to paint Isa alayhi salam. He wanted to paint two pictures of Isa alayhi salam. The one, the curious one, the dubious one, the controversial one, and the one that is presented in Islamic literature. So that story is there, and he continues to use it, but then he starts to throw these things in the middle as well. That ये भी कहा जा सकता है, वो भी कहा जा सकता है, ये भी किया जा सकता है, वो भी किया जा सकता है, right? So he was very, very clever in this to cast doubt on the character of Maryam alayhi salam, and even to claim that Maryam alayhi salam, A'udhu billah, thumma A'udhu billah, was hermaphrodite, or Isa alayhi salam had no male organs. So he made Maryam alayhi salam into a transgender person, and Isa alayhi salam into someone who doesn't have male organs. So this is Mirza. And then they're going to start again posting, oh, look at his love for Maryam. Look at his love. We don't have the problem with those things. Can you tell us why he wrote these things? That Maryam alayhi salam could be someone who had male characteristics, or Isa alayhi salam who was lacking male organs.
Yeah. So basically, bhai, the reason we gave this one example, like we have covered this topic in 8 live stream. Alhamdulillah, in 8 live streams, we went on all of these topics one by one. Right now, I wanted to give people at least one example that when you bring something in which Mirza is clearly caught disrespecting Maryam alayhi salam or Isa alayhi salam, instead of addressing that particular quotation, they want us to go on other quotes. The question is, we want you to address this quotation. Okay, no problem. Even if you want to go by the principle that you want to understand this quotation in the light of other quotations, no problem. The still you have not addressed the question. The question is, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani rejected the Quranic narrative in which there is no such thing as Joseph the carpenter. Number one. Number two, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani rejected clearly the biblical narrative in which we do have Joseph, but it was a normal marriage. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani wants to side with the Fazil Yehudi. Why?